Okay, everyone, I'd like to talk a little bit about ASP.NET. This is really a whole other area of study. We used to have a whole class devoted to this topic here at Moraine, but we no longer have that class. I would like to just do one or two examples just to show you that this technology exists and that you can use it. You already have a very decent background in C# programming now, and a lot of that applies in this environment. But there are other things too, like the web ins and outs, and just kind of the whole setup of a web page using ASP.NET that I'll shed a little bit of light on here, but not a lot. At the time of this video, we're using the Maroc book in this class, and Maroc also has an ASP.NET version of their book, so that would be probably a good resource if you're comfortable with the format of those books and you really want to learn this. You can sit down with that book and I think get very far. Like I said, you know a lot about C# programming and the framework class library, all those objects that we've been using, the ADO.NET, those would work in this environment. So I think, maybe just a little bit of learning curve on the setup and the architecture of a web-based application, and then you'd probably be pretty good to go. So I just want to, I'm not going to get into the application in this video. I'm just going to show you kind of how to, a little bit about the architecture behind the scenes and then how to set up the Visual Studio so you can start using this. But basically, I'm looking at an online version or an electronic version of that Maroc book, and this is an example of just like a static web page, just like a basic HTML page, with no data going back and forth between the user and the server or the client and the server. It's just, it's a nice web page, but it's just kind of everything is visual and just like it's meant to just provide information, and it's not getting information or any inputs from the user. So this is the kind of architecture that you would expect with just a basic HTML page running on a simple web server, those HTML files, and then your web browser, for example, types in that address for this boardwalk park, and the web server serves up that HTML page. Very simple exchange. So with that in mind, let's look at the dynamics or the ins and outs of how a web page might behave or might be deployed on a server. So here we have the web browser, the client, issuing a request. Well, let me look at this example here. This is an ASPX web page, an active server page, and the difference here, it kind of looks like a Windows Forms application, but the user is inputting data. They're selecting a product, they're inputting a quantity, and they're going to, get some kind of response from the server. What they see on the web page is going to change with the data. So that's what we mean by a dynamic web page or an active server page. And this would be the architecture. You can see it's more complicated than the basic HTML web page, but the client sends a request, and we have the web server, which will be Microsoft Internet Information Server, I believe that stands for. I'm going to show you that we're going to install that. When we set up the Visual Studio so you can work in this technology, this is going to come with what you install. So you don't really have to, proactively install that. You're going to get it regardless. And so we have our application server, also something that you don't have to worry about. And this is where your program, your web form that, I'll show you how to create one of those, will be running on that. So it's really these two kind of layers working together. And basically, for example, in this Halloween Superstore, we'll have the user send the request along with some data, the product and the quantity, and then your application, just like the kinds of applications we did in the Windows Forms, will get that input from the user, from the text boxes on the web page or the controls on the web page, do something with it, and then serve up the response page. Okay, so we're not going to get into database, obviously, in these simple little examples, but that's another layer. If you want to work with data, then you can use your ADO.NET in this environment, and you would have kind of a data layer going on there too. So let me show you how to set up the Visual Studio. We have, we're going to create a new project. Okay, and by default, you probably will not have the ASP.NET option to do a web page. So what you have to do is scroll all the way to the bottom and install more tools and features. Okay, I had to pause the video for a minute and update my Visual Studio installer. You might have to do that too. But okay, so now I'm ready, and it's really this one right up at the top, the ASP.NET and Web Development. You're going to check that and install while downloading. And that will be it for your setup. Then you can begin doing your ASP.NET web application, which I will begin in the next video.